Daeho Park sat in his command chair watching the morning report scroll across his screen. Another quiet day at New Jeju Colony. The defense station hummed with its usual rhythm. Coffee brewing in the break room. Junior officers chatting about weekend plans. Nothing unusual. Nothing dangerous. He glanced at the viewport showing the planet below. Green farmlands stretched across the continents. His wife Minjae worked down there in the Agricultural Research Center. His kids Taeyang and Nari were probably sitting in school right now. Taeyang hated math class. Nari loved it. Life was good in the outer colonies. The alarm shattered everything. Red lights flooded the command center. The proximity sensors screamed warnings. Daeho jumped to his feet as his crew rushed to their stations. On the main display, ships appeared out of nowhere. Big ships. Unknown designs. Moving fast toward the colony. Ensign Haiwen Choi worked the communications panel with shaking hands. She was only 23 years old. Fresh from the academy. This was supposed to be a safe posting. She opened all frequencies and broadcast the standard greeting. No response came back. She tried again. Still nothing. Daeho watched the unknown ships getting closer. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. He ordered the shields raised and weapons powered up. New Jeju only had basic defenses. They were farmers and scientists, not soldiers. The station could handle pirates or smugglers. But these ships looked military, professional, deadly. The first shot came without warning. Blue energy beams lanced through space and struck the defense station. The shields held for a moment, then collapsed. Alarms screamed louder. Daeho felt the deck shake under his feet. Another hit. Then another. The unknown ships were firing to kill. Haiwen finally got a visual image. The alien ships looked like they were designed by someone who enjoyed causing fear. Dark metal hulls covered in weapons, sharp angles that seemed to cut through space itself. And they were big, each one 3 times the size of the defense station. Down on the planet, Minji Kim heard the emergency sirens. She stood in the middle of the research compound surrounded by her team. Everyone looked at each other with confusion turning into fear. The sirens meant attack. But who would attack New Jeju? They grew food. They studied plants. They had nothing worth stealing. She grabbed her communicator and called Daeho. The connection was full of static and alarm sounds. His voice came through broken and urgent. "Get the kids. Get to the shelters now." The line went dead. Minjae ran toward the school where Taeyang and Nari spent their days learning and laughing. She ran faster than she ever had in her life. In orbit, Daeho made the hardest choice of his life. The defense station was dying. Hull breaches opened across 3 decks. Life support was failing. The aliens kept firing, but the emergency beacon needed to be activated. Someone had to warn Earth. Someone had to tell humanity what was happening out here. He ordered the crew to evacuate. Young men and women scrambled for the escape pods. They had trained for this, but training felt different when death was real and close. Haiwen stayed at her station. She looked at Daeho with determination in her eyes. Someone needed to boost the signal. Someone needed to make sure Earth received the message. Daeho wanted to order her to leave. She was so young. She had her whole life ahead of her. But he saw the same stubbornness in her face that he saw in his daughter Nari. He nodded. She nodded back. They both knew what this meant. The alien ships changed targets. Beams of energy struck the planet below. Minjae watched from the school parking lot as fire rained from the sky. Buildings exploded. The agricultural compound where she worked disappeared in a flash of light. Screams filled the air. Parents grabbed their children. Everyone ran for the underground shelters. Taeyang held his little sister's hand as they followed their mother down concrete stairs. Nari was crying. She was only 8 years old. She didn't understand why the sky was burning. Taeyang tried to be brave like his father. He was 12, almost a man. But his hands shook and tears ran down his face too. Back on the station, Haiwen worked frantically. Her fingers flew across the controls. She uploaded everything. Visual recordings of the alien ships, tactical data about their weapons, audio of their failed communication attempts. She made sure Earth would know what these creatures looked like, what they could do, how they gave no warning before killing. Daeho recorded his final message. His voice stayed calm even as explosions shook the station. He described the attack step by step. He noted that the aliens targeted civilians first. They destroyed homes and schools before military targets. They hunted evacuation ships like predators chasing prey. They showed no mercy to women or children. His last words were simple and clear. They attacked civilians. They attacked our children. Remember New Jeju? Then the station's power core overloaded. Daeho and Hwon disappeared in a flash of white light. The massacre continued for 3 days. The alien ships were thorough. They destroyed every building. They chased down every evacuation attempt. They turned fertile farmland into smoking glass. When they finally left, New Jeju Colony was gone. 46,847 people dead, 153 survivors floating in damaged escape pods. 22 hours after the first shot, the emergency beacon reached Earth. Admiral Sora Han watched the recordings in her office at Central Command. She saw the alien ships appear without warning. She saw them fire without attempting communication. She saw them hunt children. Sora had spent 30 years in the fleet. She had fought pirates. She had negotiated with smugglers. She had seen combat and death. But she had never seen anything like this. These aliens didn't want territory or resources. They wanted extermination. They treated humans like insects to be crushed. She played Daeho's final message 3 times. His calm voice describing horror. His last words asking humanity to remember. She thought about her own brother who lived on New Jeju. She hadn't received word yet about survivors. She already knew the answer. Sora called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every human world gathered in the chamber. She showed them the footage without comment. The room fell silent. Some people cried. Some looked angry. All of them understood what this meant. A representative from Mars demanded immediate military response. Someone from Europa suggested trying diplomatic channels first. The debate started to grow heated. Sora let them argue for exactly 5 minutes. Then she stood and played the footage one more time. This time she focused on the images of children running from fire. The room went quiet again. The vote was unanimous. Every human world agreed. Every representative said yes. Earth would respond. Earth would make these aliens understand their mistake. Earth would show them what happened when you attacked human children. Sora returned to her office and began writing orders. She activated protocols that had existed for decades. Secret programs, hidden weapons, classified research. Humanity had been preparing for war among the stars since the day they first left Earth. They had hoped to never need these preparations. That hope was dead now. She sent messages to every human military installation, every space dock, every research facility. The orders were simple and clear. Mobilize everything, build everything, prepare everything. Humanity was going to war. In the ruins of New Jeju, Minjae and her children huddled in a damaged escape pod. They had survived by hiding in the deepest shelter. When they emerged, their world was gone. Minjae held Taeyang and Nari close. She didn't know if Daeho survived. She didn't know if help would come. She only knew that her husband's last words would reach Earth, and she knew that when they did, the universe would change forever. The aliens had attacked one colony. They thought humans were weak. They thought this would be easy. They were about to learn the most important lesson in human history. Never attack our children, never mistake mercy for weakness, and never ever assume that humanity will not respond when you cross the line. The war had begun, and these aliens had no idea what was coming for them. The Verlesh Second Conquest Fleet emerged from slip space expecting empty void. Instead, they entered hell. The moment their ships appeared at Helios Gate, kinetic impactors struck from every direction. Metal projectiles moving at 97% light speed. Invisible until impact, unstoppable once launched. Verlesh capital ships that had survived centuries of warfare disappeared in flashes of light. Their shields meant nothing against weapons moving that fast. Their armor vaporized on contact. In the first 30 seconds, 50 ships ceased to exist. The Verlesh commanders screamed orders, but their crews were already dying. Director Wu Jin watched the battle from his command center on Luna. The Thunderbolt program was performing beyond expectations. Years of calculations, decades of development, all of it paying off in brutal efficiency. He felt no joy in the destruction. Only satisfaction that human engineering exceeded Verlesh arrogance. Commander Taejin led his fighter wing into the chaos. 200 pilots moving through the battle like dancers. Their neural interfaces allowed reaction times that seemed impossible. They saw targeting solutions before the enemy could react. They dodged incoming fire with movements that violated Verlesh understanding of physics. Tajin locked onto a Verlesh destroyer. His fighter spiraled through 3 dimensions while his weapons tracked the target perfectly. Plasma lances cut through the destroyer's engines. It spun out of control and collided with another Verlesh ship. Both exploded. 2 kills with 1 attack. Captain Hajin Cho brought his destroyer squadron into close range. The Verlesh expected long-distance combat. Their tactics relied on overwhelming firepower from safe positions. They had never fought an enemy that rushed into knife-fighting range. Hajin's ships moved in tight formation, concentrating their fire, punching through shields and armor before the Verlesh could respond. The Verlesh tried to retreat. Their remaining ships turned and attempted to escape. But Admiral Sora had planned for this. The combined fleet surrounded them completely. Every direction led to human weapons. Every attempted escape route met prepared countermeasures. Commander Yanwu Park coordinated the fleet movements from the ECS Vengeance. Her tactical displays showed the entire battle across light years of space. She saw patterns, predicted enemy movements, positioned human ships where they would have maximum effect. The Verlesh commanders had centuries of experience, but Yanwu had studied every battle in human history. She knew things they couldn't imagine. The battle evolved into a running engagement. Verlesh survivors scattered, trying to find any weakness in the human formation, finding none. Human ships pursued with relentless efficiency. Every Verlesh vessel that tried to regroup was destroyed before it could rally others. Chief Engineer Sun Mi-jang monitored the shield systems. Her new frequency-shifting technology worked perfectly. Verlesh weapons that had torn through New Jeju's defenses now hit shields that phased through multiple dimensions. The energy dispersed harmlessly. Human ships shrugged off attacks that should have destroyed them. 72 hours after the battle began, the Second Conquest Fleet ceased to exist. 300 ships reduced to 17 damaged survivors fleeing in terror. Human casualties were minimal. 43 ships damaged, 7 destroyed, 2,000 personnel lost, against the complete annihilation of an enemy fleet. Admiral Sora sat in her command chair watching the tactical display clear. She felt no triumph, only grim determination. This victory meant nothing if the Verlesh could rebuild and attack again. The war could not end here. It had to continue until the Dominion could never threaten anyone again. Then new messages started arriving. Alien species from systems near Verlesh space. They had intercepted human broadcasts. They had seen the battle. They knew what humanity was doing. And they were offering help. Dr. Yunji translated the messages. Some species pledged military assistance. Others offered intelligence about Verlesh installations. All of them shared the same story. The Verlesh had enslaved them, murdered their people, destroyed their cultures. For generations they had suffered under Dominion rule with no hope of freedom. Now they saw hope. They saw a species that fought back and won. They saw humans doing what they thought was impossible, defeating the Verlesh. They wanted humanity to continue, to liberate them, to end the Dominion forever. Sora called a meeting of her senior commanders. She presented them with a choice. They could declare victory and return home. New Jeju was avenged. The Verlesh had learned their lesson. Or they could continue, knowing that every Verlesh base still operating represented future atrocities. Commander Seojin spoke first. We continue. The Verlesh didn't just attack us. They've been doing this for centuries. If we stop now, they'll just recover and find new victims. We have the power to end this. We have the responsibility to use it. Captain Jiwoo agreed. My stealth ships have mapped their entire empire. 47 systems, hundreds of installations, millions of slaves waiting for liberation. We can't leave them to suffer. Commander Tajin nodded. My pilots are ready. We've trained our entire lives for this. Give us the targets and we'll remove them. One by one, every commander voted to continue. The decision was unanimous. The combined fleet would advance into Verlesh space. They would destroy every military installation. They would liberate every enslaved species. They would break the Dominion so completely it could never rise again. Sora broadcast the decision to Earth. The response came back within hours. The United Earth Council approved unlimited operations. They authorized whatever resources were needed. They gave Sora complete authority to end the Verlesh threat permanently. The systematic destruction began. Human forces moved from system to system. Each Verlesh base met the same fate: kinetic bombardment, fighter strikes, Marine boarding actions. Nothing survived. The Dominion's military apparatus collapsed under the assault. In each liberated system, freed slaves watched in awe. They had lived under Vrelesh cruelty for generations. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. Now they saw human ships arrive, saw Vrelesh bases explode, saw their oppressors fleeing in terror. The freed species began helping humanity, providing intelligence, offering supplies. Some even joined the fight. Young warriors from a dozen species flew alongside human pilots. Ground troops from liberated worlds fought beside human marines. The war became something bigger than human revenge. It became a galactic liberation. Supreme Commander Throckval watched his empire crumble. Every report brought worse news. Another base destroyed. Another fleet scattered. Another system lost. He couldn't understand how this was happening. The Vrelesh had never lost before. They were the predators, the masters. How could prey defeat them? He ordered his remaining forces to concentrate around Vrelesh Prime. The homeworld would be their final fortress, the place where they made their stand. He sent messages to the outlying fleets. Return home. Defend the homeworld. Save what remained of Vrelesh glory. But those fleets never made it home. Human forces intercepted them in transit. Captain Hudgens' destroyers tore through their formations. Commander Tajin's fighters hunted them through asteroid fields. Captain Jiwoo's stealth ships appeared from nowhere and destroyed them before they could react. 6 months after the first strike at Outpost 7, the combined fleet arrived at Vrelesh Prime. 47 Dominion systems reduced to nothing. 23 slave colonies liberated. An empire that stood for 2 centuries dismantled in half a year. Admiral Sora looked at the Vrelesh homeworld through the viewport. A red giant sun. 3 moons hosting defensive platforms. 4 billion Vrelesh living below, including 2 billion civilians who had nothing to do with military decisions. She thought about New Jeju, about how the Vrelesh had targeted civilians first, how they had shown no mercy, how easy it would be to respond the same way, to rain fire on the world below, to make them feel the same terror her people felt. But humanity was better than that. She had promised they would not become monsters. She would keep that promise even now. Even here, Sora gave her orders. Establish blockade. Destroy military targets only. No bombardment of civilian populations. Show them that humanity fights with honor. Show them what they could have been. Director Wu Jin Kang walked through the underground facility that officially didn't exist. 3 kilometers below the surface of Luna, surrounded by ancient rock and steel doors that could withstand nuclear strikes, humanity's greatest secrets waited in silence. He had spent 20 years overseeing these projects. Now they would finally see daylight. His assistant followed him with a data pad. The list was long. Project Thunderbolt, Project Ghost, Project Hellstorm. Dozens of weapons programs developed in secret. Ships designed for war. Technology reverse-engineered from theoretical physics. All of it hidden from public view because the politicians thought humanity wasn't ready. Wu Jin stopped in front of a massive hangar door. Inside waited the prototype stealth carrier, invisible to every known sensor system, armed with weapons that could tear through shields like paper, fast enough to cross star systems in days instead of weeks. He had helped design it 15 years ago. Now Captain Jiwoo Nam would command it. Jiwoo stood on the bridge of her new ship. The ECS Retribution felt different from normal vessels. Everything was designed for silence and death. No running lights, no external markings. Even the hull absorbed scanner waves instead of reflecting them. She had spent 10 years doing deep space reconnaissance. She knew how to move unseen. Now she would teach these aliens to fear the darkness. Back on Earth, Admiral Sora Han addressed her commanders in the war room. The holographic display showed human space and the alien territory beyond. Sora pointed to key locations as she spoke. Her voice carried the weight of command earned through decades of service. We are not seeking conquest. We are not starting an empire. We are teaching a lesson that will echo across the galaxy for generations. These aliens destroyed New Jeju because they thought we were weak. They will learn their mistake. Every military installation they have will burn. Every ship in their fleet will become debris. But we will not become them. We will not target civilians. We will show the universe what real strength looks like. The commanders nodded. Commander Seojin Bei, who led the Marine forces, spoke up. His troops were ready. They had been training for this kind of war since humanity first reached Mars. Zero-gravity combat, boarding actions, urban warfare on alien worlds. Whatever was needed, they could deliver. Dr. Yunji Park worked in the linguistics center analyzing every sound the aliens made. She had lost 3 colleagues at New Jeju, scientists who dedicated their lives to understanding alien cultures. Now she dedicated herself to understanding these particular aliens, so humanity could destroy them efficiently. The alien language was harsh and guttural. It took her 2 weeks to crack the basic structure. What she found made her blood run cold. The aliens called themselves the Vrelesh Dominion. In their language, there were only 2 categories for other species: masters and meat. They had conquered 47 star systems over 2 centuries. New Jeju was just another meal to them. Yunji presented her findings to Admiral Sora. The room fell silent as they realized the truth. This wasn't a territorial dispute. This wasn't a resource conflict. The Vrelesh simply believed they had the right to exterminate anyone weaker than themselves. They had done it before. They would do it again, unless someone stopped them. Across human space, the mobilization accelerated. Every space dock roared with activity 24 hours a day. Workers welded hull plates. Engineers installed weapon systems. Shipyards that normally produced cargo vessels retooled for warship construction. Earth's economy transformed overnight. The civilian population understood what was happening. They saw the news feeds from New Jeju. They saw the images of burning schools and murdered children. They didn't protest the military buildup. Instead, they volunteered. Engineers postponed retirement. Factory workers added extra shifts. Even teenagers lied about their ages to join the fleet. Representative Junho Lee from Mars addressed the Earth Council. His voice shook with barely controlled rage. His nephew had died at New Jeju, 8 years old. He showed the council a picture of a smiling boy holding a model spaceship. Then he showed them what the Vrelesh had done to that boy. Every member of the council voted to authorize unlimited military spending. Money was meaningless if humanity couldn't protect its children. They unlocked classified budgets. They released restricted technologies. They gave Admiral Sora complete authority over military operations. In the asteroid belt, mining operations shifted focus. Instead of extracting resources for construction, they produced materials for weapons, kinetic impactors that could strike at near light speed, missile warheads packed with antimatter, armor plating designed to withstand anything the Vrelesh could throw. Commander Yanwu Park coordinated the logistics from her station on Titan. She was a tactical genius who could see patterns others missed. She tracked every ship being built, every weapon being produced, every soldier being trained. Her screen showed the entire military machine working in perfect synchronization. Captain Ha-Jin Cho tested new combat doctrines in simulations. His destroyer squadron had won every war game for the past 5 years. Now he developed tactics specifically designed to counter Vrelesh technology. Close formation attacks, concentrated fire patterns, overwhelming force applied at precise weak points. The fleet grew larger every week. 200 ships became 500, then 1,000, then 2,000, each one more advanced than the last, each one carrying weapons that made previous generations look like toys. Humanity had been preparing for this for generations. Now the preparation paid off. Chief Engineer Sunmi Jang worked on the shield technology. She studied the recordings from New Jeju. The Vrelesh weapons used quantum phasing to bypass conventional shields. She spent 6 weeks developing a counter. Her new shields flickered through multiple dimensional frequencies. The Vrelesh weapons would find no easy target anymore. 10 weeks after New Jeju fell, the combined fleet gathered in Earth orbit. 3,000 warships floating in perfect formation, each one packed with the latest weapons. Each one crewed by men and women who had seen the footage, who had watched children die, who would not stop until the Vrelesh paid for what they had done. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, the ECS Vengeance. The name was chosen carefully. She broadcast to the entire fleet on all channels. Her words would be recorded and remembered forever. Today we depart for war, not a war of conquest, not a war of resources, a war of justice. The Vrelesh Dominion murdered 46,000 of our people. They targeted civilians. They killed children. They believed we were weak. They believed we would not respond. They were wrong. We will find their military bases and destroy them. We will locate their fleets and crush them. We will break their power so completely that they will never threaten another civilization again. But we will not become monsters. We will not target their civilians. We will show them that humanity is better than they are. We will show them that strength and honor can coexist. Remember, New Jeju. Remember why we fight. Remember that every action we take today will be judged by history. Let us make sure that judgment is favorable. Let us make sure that when this war ends, the galaxy knows that humanity protects the innocent and punishes the guilty. The fleet responded with a single voice. 3,000 ships, 3 million personnel, all of them speaking as one. For New Jeju, for humanity, for justice, the ships activated their engines. One by one, they disappeared into slipspace. Heading toward Vrelesh territory. Heading toward war. The aliens had attacked one colony. They were about to face the full fury of an entire species that refused to be victims. On Luna, Director Wu Jin watched the fleet depart. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, building weapons in secret, developing technology that pushed the boundaries of physics. Now those weapons would be tested in real combat. He felt no joy in this, only grim satisfaction that humanity would have the tools it needed. The Vrelesh Dominion had no idea what was coming. They thought the destruction of New Jeju would intimidate humanity. They thought one quick strike would make humans submit. They didn't understand that attacking civilians was the one thing guaranteed to unite every human world, every political faction, every cultural group, everyone. The combined fleet moved through space like an approaching storm. Silent, deadly, unstoppable. Behind them, human civilization continued its transformation. Factories produced weapons. Shipyards built more vessels. Scientists developed new technologies. The entire species focused on a single goal: make the Vrelesh understand their mistake. Make them pay for every human life they took. Make them remember New Jeju forever. Captain Jiwoo Nam sat in the darkness of her stealth carrier. The ECS Retribution drifted through Vrelesh space without making a sound. No engines. No emissions. Just cold metal floating among the stars. Around her, the bridge crew worked in whispers. Every system designed for silence. Every action calculated to remain invisible. Lieutenant Hanul Park studied his sensor displays with intense focus. He had a gift for seeing patterns in data that others missed. Right now, those patterns showed him the entire Vrelesh military network. Bases, supply routes, communication hubs, fleet positions. He mapped everything with perfect precision. What Hanil discovered made the entire crew feel cold anger. The Vrelesh Dominion controlled 47 star systems. Each one conquered through overwhelming force. Each one showing signs of destroyed civilizations. The Vrelesh didn't just conquer, they exterminated. New Jeju was not unique. It was their standard procedure. Dr. Yunji worked in the communications center decoding Vrelesh transmissions. Her hands trembled as she translated their military reports. The reports discussed conquered species like humans discuss livestock, numbers, resources, disposal methods. The Vrelesh viewed themselves as the only real intelligence in the universe. Everything else was just meat waiting to be processed. She sent her findings to Admiral Sora on the flagship. The message was simple but chilling. The Vrelesh have destroyed 17 different civilizations in the past 200 years. They never negotiate. They never show mercy. They attack, exterminate, and move on. We are just the latest target. Sora read the report 3 times. Each reading increased her resolve. This was not just about revenge for New Jeju anymore. This was about stopping a genocidal empire before it could murder anyone else. She called a meeting of her command staff and shared the intelligence. The room fell silent as the commanders understood the full scope of what they faced. Commander Seojin spoke first. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fury. We need to hit them hard. Show them they picked the wrong species to mess with. Show every other civilization watching that the Vrelesh can be stopped. Sora agreed. She selected their first target carefully. Vrelesh Outpost 7 sat in neutral space. It served as a forward base for raiding operations. 3,000 Vrelesh military personnel, massive sensor arrays, heavy weapons platforms, and most importantly, it controlled the route the New Jeju attackers had used. Commander Taijin Lim prepared his fighter wing for the assault. 200 pilots, each one trained to perfection. Each one had seen the footage from New Jeju. Each one understood that mercy was not an option today. The Vrelesh had shown humanity what they thought mercy was. Now humanity would teach them a different lesson. The attack began exactly at midnight station time. Taijin's fighters dropped out of slipspace inside the outpost's defensive perimeter. Their weapons were already locked on target. The Vrelesh had no warning, no time to raise shields, no chance to respond. Plasma lances tore through the outpost armor like it was made of paper. Explosions bloomed across the station. The Vrelesh tried to return fire, but human fighters moved too fast, dodging and weaving through space, striking from impossible angles. Using tactics the Vrelesh had never encountered. The battle lasted 19 minutes. That was all the time it took to destroy a base the Vrelesh thought was impregnable. When the smoke cleared, Outpost 7 was expanding debris. Vrelesh ships attempting to respond found themselves facing Captain Jiwoo's stealth frigates. The Vrelesh vessels never saw what killed them. Jiwoo's ships appeared from nowhere, fired devastating salvos, then disappeared back into the darkness. The Vrelesh commanders screamed orders, but there was nothing to shoot at. Just death coming from empty space. Their ships exploded one after another until none remained. Commander Seojin led the boarding action on the outpost's command center. His Marines wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. They breached the hull through explosive decompression. The Vrelesh inside tried to fight back, but human weapons cut through their defenses. Sergeant Mirai Kang moved through the corridors with her squad. She had trained for this kind of combat her entire career. The Vrelesh were big, nearly 3 meters tall. Their natural armor looked intimidating. But size didn't matter when human weapons could punch through anything. Her squad secured the command center in 6 minutes. Mirai stood over a wounded Vrelesh commander. The alien looked at her with eyes that showed confusion. It had never been defeated before. Never been at the mercy of a species it considered inferior. Mirai felt no satisfaction in its fear, only grim purpose. She downloaded the base's entire database. Fleet positions, military doctrine, strategic plans, and most valuable, the coordinates of every major Vrelesh installation. The aliens had been careless with security. They never imagined anyone could breach their systems. As her squad prepared to evacuate, Mirai paused at a wall display. It showed images of the Dominion's conquests. Dozens of alien species, their cities in ruins, their populations extinct. She recognized some of the architectural styles from archaeological records, civilizations that humanity thought died naturally. Now she knew the truth. The Marines withdrew and the outpost was destroyed completely. No survivors. No evidence, just a debris field where a major military base used to exist. The message was clear. The Vrelesh had attacked humans without warning. Humans would respond the same way. Admiral Sora broadcast a message on all Vrelesh military frequencies. She spoke slowly and clearly. Dr. Yunji translated her words with perfect accuracy. The message would be remembered throughout Vrelesh history. I am Fleet Admiral Sora Han of the United Earth Forces. You attacked our colony without provocation. You murdered our civilians without warning. You showed our children no mercy. We will extend you the same courtesy you showed us. This is not war. This is education. You will learn that humanity is not prey. Learn quickly or learn painfully. The choice is yours. The broadcast caused chaos in Vrelesh High Command. For 200 years they had been the hunters, the predators, the species that other civilizations feared. Now they faced something they didn't understand. An enemy that hit back, an enemy that won. Supreme Commander Throckval called an emergency meeting of his war council. The Vrelesh leaders gathered in their massive command chamber. Holographic displays showed the ruins of Outpost 7. The commanders argued about how this was possible. How could inferior prey destroy a major military installation? Throckval dismissed the loss as luck. The humans got lucky with a surprise attack. Nothing more. He ordered the Second Conquest Fleet to launch. 300 ships that had crushed a dozen civilizations. They would teach these humans their proper place. They would show them what real power looked like. The Second Conquest Fleet departed Vrelesh space with great ceremony. Their commanders were confident. Their crews were experienced. They had never lost a battle. They expected this to be another easy victory. Another species added to the list of extinct civilizations. Captain Jiwoo tracked their movements from her stealth carrier. She watched the Vrelesh fleet move through space with formations designed for intimidation rather than efficiency. They traveled in massive groups, broadcasting their presence, trying to cause fear in their enemies. She sent detailed reports to Admiral Sora, the enemy fleet's course, their speed, their formation. Everything needed to plan the perfect ambush. The Vrelesh were heading straight into a trap, and they had no idea. On the flagship, Sora studied the tactical displays. She had the Verlesh exactly where she wanted them. The second conquest fleet would arrive at Helios Gate in 48 hours. That gave her time to position the entire combined fleet. Time to prepare the perfect killing ground. She thought about New Jeju, about the children who died there, about Deho Park's last message. Remember New Jeju, she would remember, and she would make sure the Verlesh never forgot either. The combined fleet moved into position around Helios Gate. 3,000 ships, hiding in the nebula, weapons armed, targeting systems locked. Waiting in perfect silence, the Verlesh thought they were hunting humans. They were about to discover they were the prey. The blockade of Verlesh Prime began with precision. Commander Tajin's fighters swept through the orbital space, destroying defensive platforms. The massive weapons arrays that protected the homeworld became expanding debris within hours. The Verlesh defenders never had time to fire a single shot. Commander Seojun led Marines to capture the orbital shipyards intact. His troops moved through the stations room by room. The Verlesh workers surrendered without fight. They had watched their military fail again and again. They knew resistance was pointless. The shipyards that built conquest fleets for centuries now belonged to humanity. Captain Jiwoo positioned her stealth frigates around the planet. Any ship attempting to leave or arrive met immediate destruction. The blockade was absolute. No supplies in, no refugees out. Verlesh Prime was cut off from the universe. But Admiral Sora did not bombard the world. Instead, she deployed communication satellites. Director Wu Jin's engineers worked around the clock to ensure every Verlesh receiver could pick up the broadcast. Every screen, every radio, every device capable of receiving signals, all of them would show the same thing. Dr. Yoonji prepared the content carefully. She compiled footage from New Jeju, not propaganda, just truth. The attack without warning, the civilians running, the children screaming, the methodical extermination. She showed the Verlesh people what their government had done in their name. The broadcasts played continuously. Every hour, every day, accompanied by Admiral Sora's words translated perfectly into Verlesh language. This is what your government did to our people. This is the price of attacking civilians. We could respond in kind. We could burn your world as you burned our colony. But we are not you. We are better than you. Learn this lesson well. The effect was immediate and devastating. Verlesh civilians had believed their government's lies for generations. They thought they brought civilization to lesser species. They thought their conquests were righteous. Now they saw the truth. Their empire was built on genocide. Their glory was measured in innocent blood. Protests erupted in the major cities. Verlesh citizens filled the streets demanding answers. How many species had they exterminated? How many children had died? How many lies had their leaders told? The government tried to suppress the protests, tried to control the narrative. But the truth was too powerful. Military commanders began refusing orders. They had watched the human fleet destroy everything the Dominion sent against them. They had seen 2 centuries of military tradition crushed in 6 months. They knew the truth. They had lost, completely, utterly, forever. Supreme Commander Throckval saw his authority crumbling. He gathered the home defense fleet, the last organized military force the Verlesh possessed. 1,200 ships, all that remained of the massive armada that once terrorized the galaxy. He would lead them personally. One final battle, one last chance to prove Verlesh superiority. The home defense fleet launched with ancient ceremony, war drums beating, commanders shouting oaths of victory, crews convinced they would somehow succeed where all others had failed. They truly believed they were different, special, destined to win. They were wrong. Captain Hodgin's destroyer squadron met them first. His ships moved in the tight formations that had proven so effective. Concentrating fire, breaking through defenses, moving faster than the Verlesh could track. Within the first hour, 200 enemy ships were destroyed. Commander Yanwu coordinated the human response from the ECS Vengeance. She had studied Verlesh tactics for months. She knew how they thought, how they moved, how they fought. Every maneuver they attempted, she had already prepared a counter. Every formation they used, she had already identified the weakness. The battle was not a fight. It was an execution. Systematic, efficient, merciless. The home defense fleet that represented Verlesh pride was torn apart piece by piece. Throckval watched his ships explode around him. He sent increasingly desperate orders. Nothing worked. Nothing helped. The humans were simply better. His flagship took hits from 3 directions. Shields failed. Armor cracked. He felt the deck shaking under his feet. Fire spread through the corridors. His crew abandoned their stations. He stood alone in his command center, watching the tactical display. Watching everything he believed in turn to ash. The flagship exploded. Throckval died, still not understanding how this happened. How prey became predator. How the mighty fell to the weak. He died believing Verlesh superiority. He died wrong. On Verlesh Prime, the civilian population watched the battle through their screens. They saw their home defense fleet annihilated. They saw the last symbol of Verlesh military power reduced to scrap. They understood that the war was over. They had lost everything. A delegation formed. Civilian leaders, philosophers, teachers, people who had opposed the military expansion but had no power to stop it. They approached the human fleet under white flag, broadcasting surrender on all frequencies, offering to place their entire species at humanity's mercy. Admiral Sora received them aboard the ECS Vengeance. The Verlesh delegates stood before her expecting death. They had studied human responses from New Jeju. They knew what humanity was capable of. They waited for the order to exterminate their species. They thought they deserved it. Sora looked at them for a long moment. She thought about New Jeju, about Daeho Park and his final message, about the children who died, about how easy it would be to order bombardment, to wipe out the Verlesh as they had tried to wipe out humanity. Then she spoke. Her words would become the foundation of peace. We did not come here to exterminate your species. We came to ensure you never exterminate another. Your government is dissolved. Your military is disbanded. Your weapons are destroyed. But your people will live. You will rebuild under our supervision. You will learn what it means to coexist rather than conquer. You will learn that strength without honor is worthless. And you will remember New Jeju. You will remember what happens when you attack civilians. You will teach your children. And they will teach theirs. So this never happens again. The Verlesh delegates stood in shock. They expected death. They received mercy. They didn't understand why. One of them asked the question that haunted him. Why spare us after what we did? Sora's answer was simple. Because we are not you. Because humanity learned long ago that revenge without purpose is just more death. Because the best way to honor our dead is to ensure no one else suffers as they did. You will live, but you will change, or we will return. The combined fleet remained in Verlesh space for 2 years. Human personnel oversaw the transition to civilian government. Commander Seojin's Marines became peacekeepers. Captain Jiwoo's ships monitored compliance. Director Woojin's engineers helped rebuild infrastructure designed for peace instead of war. The changes were thorough. Verlesh schools stopped teaching racial superiority. They started teaching cooperation. Military academies became technical colleges. Weapons factories became manufacturing centers. An entire civilization restructured from the ground up. Across former Dominion space, liberated species established new governments. Many requested formal alliance with Earth. They wanted human protection, human partnership. They had seen what humanity did to tyrants. They wanted to be on the same side. A galactic council formed. Representatives from 47 systems meeting as equals. Discussing trade, sharing technology, building peace. And they invited humanity to lead them. They saw humans as liberators, protectors, heroes. Admiral Sora addressed the first council meeting. She spoke carefully, choosing words that would define humanity's role for generations. Earth seeks no territory beyond our existing colonies. We claim no tribute. We demand no fealty. We will not build an empire. But understand this clearly. If any species attacks civilian populations, if any government practices genocide, if any empire builds itself on suffering, they will find humanity at their doorstep. We are not conquerors. We are guarantors of peace. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we keep our promises. The Council accepted these terms. They voted unanimously to establish humanity as the guarantor of galactic peace, not through force, not through fear, through trust earned in blood and honor proven in restraint. 3 years after New Jeju fell, a memorial station opened at the colony's coordinates. The structure floated where farms once grew, where families once lived. Where children once played, now it served as embassy, research center, and monument. The dedication ceremony drew representatives from every freed species. Frelesh leaders came to offer formal apology. They brought gifts, pledges, promises to never forget. Some of them cried. The younger ones, born after the war, who only knew peace, Commander Deho Park attended with his family. They had survived in the escape pod for 5 days before rescue. Dr. Minjay still had nightmares about the attack. Taeyang, now 15, wanted to join the fleet. Nari 11 studied diplomacy. The war had shaped their lives, but it had not destroyed them. Ensign Hyeon Choi's name was inscribed on the memorial wall. Posthumously promoted to commander for her sacrifice, her family accepted the honor with pride and tears. She had stayed at her post, ensuring Earth received the warning. Her death had meaning. Her sacrifice mattered.